Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Laker Connections on WTOP 10, your home for all things Laker sports. I'm Brian Rudman.
And I'm Jacob Johnson, filling in for Aaron Valentino tonight. As we start every show with us, we are going to recap this week in Laker sports. Brian and I will break down all the games, highlights, and news of Laker sports last week and upcoming matchups. Brian, you start us off.
Absolutely. Great weekend in Laker sports. We start tonight with some SUNYAC playoff action as the Oswego State men's soccer team had quite the week. Playoff action started on Saturday when the Lakers took a trip down to Oneonta and stunned the Red Dragons in penalty kicks to advance to the semifinal round, where the Lakers shut out the two-seeded New Paltz Hawks in a 1-0 victory to advance to the SUNYAC finals for the first time in program history. Jake, Lakers beat Oneonta for the first time since 1965 and advanced to the finals for the first time ever. How'd they get it done?
Well, it was absolutely wild. It was so crazy this weekend. And, guys, you missed it. Wednesday was electric. Ha-Jun Lee, Kieran Gilroy, they have carried this Laker team through the SUNYAC playoffs. They have been a part of every goal that has been scored, other than, of course, the penalty kicks to beat Oneonta. But Kieran Gilroy scoring the game-winning goal against New Paltz. And as you see there, I mean, come on. They've scored one goal, and that's all they've needed. They gave up a goal to Oneonta, of course, but 9 shots, 6 of them on goal. And then New Paltz, they took 5 shots. Every single shot was on net. That's got to be perfect if you look at it. They had a lot of close opportunities. And Pasquale for New Paltz, he had a really good day, but Brian Terra, an even better day, Brian.
Right. I think you look at this team and you look at these games as a whole and you think, wow, we only scored 1 goal in each game and we're still moving on to the SUNYAC finals. That's just got to say something about this team. 2 gutsy, gritty wins where you're just shoring up the defense. You're playing strong in front of Terra. And when Terra has to make saves, he's come up with them. Look at Oneonta. He made a couple of great saves. In the New Paltz game, he had a save on a penalty kick that kept this at 1-0. So you look at this team and you feel like you're watching them from 2 years ago, right? Where they're dropping back, they're playing really, really, really good defense, and then they're capitalizing on their opportunities when they get them, because they have. They've put the majority of their shots in the playoffs on net, and that's what we haven't been seeing them do in the regular season. They're not capitalizing on their opportunities. They started to this week. They've done a good job, and they've taken advantage when their opportunities have been there.
Yeah, Brian, it was a huge win, and they got Corla this Saturday. We'll talk about that in a little while. But, Brian, the Oswego State men's hockey team fell in their first 2 regular season games Friday night, one in the Deb against the Hobart Statesmen by a final score of 3-1. The Lakers' lone goal was scored by Troy Robillard. Then, on Saturday, the Lakers traveled to the Murray Athletic Center to take on the Elmira Soaring Hawks. They were defeated by a final score of 5-4 after Elmira put away the game-clinching goal with only 3 minutes remaining. So, Brian, what did we see from the Lakers this weekend that made them fall both of those games?
Well, this just wasn't the weekend that Coach Gosick was hoping, right? Going into the year, you look at how Coach Gosick lined up this season, you think Hobart, Elmira, 2 really good opponents to start the year. Let's get some big wins. Let's get right into it. Let's get into these national rankings. And it just wasn't there. 2 really tough opponents over the weekend, 2 teams that got ranked in the top 15 this week. And you started off against Hobart, and neither game was really played well for the Lakers, but they definitely had their chances throughout. The killer in the Hobart game was the fact that the power play never got going. They were 0 for 5 in that game. They had their opportunities, and it just never went their way. There was no traffic in front of the net. You know, all the shots that they were taking were going straight to the goalie's chest. They never made them work. And then you go into Elmira, and you almost felt like they were a little hungover from that Hobart game, right? They came out flat in the first period, were down 3-0. They had to make a goalie change after just 20 minutes of play, and that kind of re-energized them, but they were just not able to overcome that. They tied up the game, but then they kept falling behind. They never led this entire weekend.
Yeah, Richie Pront really had a tough time in net for the Lakers. Unfortunately, he gave up 3 goals, and one of them was with less than 2 seconds left in the period. And then, of course, the Lakers gave up another goal with 3.6 seconds remaining in the second period, and then the game winner with 3 minutes remaining. You can't have that happening. But they did get a goal on the power play, something that we haven't seen from that this year. And, of course, Hobart, they gave up a power play goal and they went 0-5. So unfortunately, a bad weekend for the Laker hockey team.
Yeah, certainly not the way you want to start the year, but looking for a bounce back this year. We'll get into that later. Moving to the women's side now, what a weekend it was for the Lakers as they went on a nice long road trip to Michigan and Indiana. Trip started with Adrian, a team that hadn't lost since February of 2020, but that all changed when the Lakers came to town and walked away with a 2-1 victory over the Bulldogs before winning by the same score against Trine on Saturday. Jake, big statement win for the Lakers this weekend. How'd they get it done?
Yeah, I mean, come on. The Lakers are scoring their opponents 29-2 this year. 29-2? You're joking me. They defeated Adrian last year, who did not lose a game all season. They need Megan Teachout has been the key for this team right now, and you see it right there. Come on. She scored 3 goals this weekend, 2 against Adrian, and the game winner against Trine. Her plus-minus sits at 2, and yeah, you see right there. 2 game-winning goals. Are you serious? Megan Teachout has been a superstar and a leader for this team.
I mean, listen, we knew this. We knew this coming into the year, how good she was going to be. And I think, we talked about this is a very good team, and they proved it this weekend. Now, they weren't ranked nationally yet. We'll get into that later in the show. But at the end of the day, they went out and they took this road trip, and they made it their own. And you look at this team, and I talked to them today, and they talked about playing faceless opponents, right? They don't care who's on the ice against them. They don't care if it's the #1 team in the country, which they'll have to face 2 weeks when Plattsburgh comes to town. But they don't care who they're playing. They want to play good Lakers hockey. That's exactly what they did. The energy was up. And talking to Coach Digby today, he said there were some mistakes, right? This wasn't a perfect weekend, but there was never panic when they gave up goals, and they were the right mistakes, and the energy made up for it. This team was fast. They were physical. They played really good hockey, and the defense was strong, which could have been a worry, considering they never really had to play defense in the exhibition games because they were so dominant. So this was pretty much, you knew there were going to be some mistakes first weekend out, but this was about as dominant as you could get. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. Coming up next, Jake and I preview the men's soccer championship and more. You're watching the Laker Connections on WTOP 10.
I'm a lot more confident and a lot more sure of my abilities.
At Oswego is where I really found myself and became the person I am. You work hard and you play hard. I love the environment of SUNY Oswego.
Made her college years possible, opening that education savings account when she was little, spearheading campus tours, and deciphering financial aid. If you can ace planning for college, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
And welcome back to Laker Connections on WTOP 10. It's time for the week ahead. Jake and I will preview the top matchups in all of Oswego State sports. Jake, why don't you start us off in the Deb with some hockey?
Well, Brian, the Oswego State women's team comes off 2 huge victories last weekend, and now it's on to new HL play. They bring the Bengals of Buffalo State and the Bears of Potsdam into town for a Saturday-Sunday slate, with both games scheduled for 3 p.m. Brian, what can we expect from the Lakers after 2 huge victories against some pretty big teams, and now it's conference time?
I think we can expect them to get off on the right foot here in conference play, right? You look at them, they start with Buffalo State, a team that came in second to last place in the new HL. 2 years ago. This is a team that Oswego has won 7 out of the last 8 contests, from 7-3 in the last 10. So this is a team that Oswego's done very well against in the past. And like you said, where are they outscoring their opponents? 29-2? 29-2.
Yeah.
So through their 2 exhibitions and their first 2 regular season games, they're outscoring opponents 29-2. I think that just shows that this is a very, very good hockey team, and they're coming home. They get to play on home ice where they're familiar and they're in their facilities. You don't have to take the 8-hour bus ride or whatever it was over to Michigan this week, so that's always a plus.
Or Indiana.
Or Indiana. 2 tough road trips. And then with Potsdam, it's going to be a little bit tougher of an opponent. I remember 2 years ago when they came here for the Pink the Rink game. It wound up being a tie, but this is a much better Oswego State team. They've been building, and I feel like they're coming into their own. And Coach Digby said they were confident going into each game. It didn't matter where they were, feeling like maybe we hope we're going to win. They feel like they're going to win every time they walk into a rink.
Yeah, they've been strong, top to bottom. So far in this year, goalie play, the defense, and of course, when you have Megan Teachout, Amanda Zenstein, players like that, they're going to continue to carry you throughout this season. I think it's going to bode pretty well for you. Not too much to worry about Buffalo State and, of course, Potsdam. They're pretty good teams, and it's conference play. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, but they are at the Dev, and it's the hat, coats, and mittens drive this weekend at the Dev. So
always a good thing.
Always important.
Oh, hey, listen, always good to make to raise some charity. Here it is, folks. The main event. The Oswego State men's soccer team goes for SUNYAC goal for the first time in program history on Saturday when they face off with their Central New York rivals, the Cortland Red Dragons. In their lone matchup this year, the Dragons came to the Port City and shut the Lakers out in a dominant 3-0 win. Jake, a chance for the Lakers to rewrite the wrongs of history here. What will it take to pull off yet another upset in SUNYAC playoff competition?
I think it comes down to Coach Kane. He has done a great job putting in players at the right time. Let me tell you, Ha-Jun Lee and Kieran Gilroy, they have not started a game this year, or the playoffs. They have ended up coming in both times, and they have been a difference maker. Brian Terra has played absolutely out of his mind. So it's going to start in the back. There has to be communication between Brian Terra and Caleb Munsky, Ryan Contreras. There has to be that communication there. Work it up through the midfield, get it to Ryan Young, get it to your playmakers that you need, and then work it up front. Kieran Gilroy, Slater Bushin, Kyle Hanner. Those guys are what is going to lead you to victory, and they have to be really, really strong defensively, because we've seen this Cortland team, they're ranked really high in the nation, and they came in, they beat them 3-0 last time. It's going to be really, really tough, but I think they can go out there and do it.
Right, but this is also an Oswego State men's soccer team that has played against really tough competition all year long, right? Oneonta, usually a top team in the nation. Cortland, this year, top team in the nation. They faced a team like Hamilton. They faced Utica. They've faced some really, really tough opponents throughout this entire year, and they've played them tough. Yes, they have lost. Yes, their SUNYAC regular season didn't go the way they wanted it to. But at the end of the day, they got to the dance, and they've been winning since, right? They went on the road, beat a team that they lost to in the regular season. Same thing on Wednesday when they went to New Paltz. Beat a team they lost to in the regular season. At the end of the day, they got a shot. They just got to play their game again.
They beat the 3. They beat the 2. They're coming for the 1. The Oswego State women's volleyball team has lost a huge part of their program. J.J. O'Connell has retired after 10 seasons with the Lakers volleyball team. He is set to retire on March 18th, 2022. Now, Brian, what has Coach O'Connell meant for not only this program, but Laker athletics as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, Coach O'Connell's been a lot for this Oswego State athletics program. We'll get to what he's done on the court in a minute, but he's just a great guy, right? You know, he's the assistant SID here at Oswego, which means that he works with the media a lot. So, Jake, you and I have both had conversations with him. We both had, a working relationship with him. He's a great guy to work with. Anytime you need anything, he's there to talk, and he's a great help. And you take a look at what he's done on the court, actually, and we'll get his career stats up in a minute. I mean, he's 425 and 221 as a head coach all time. He's had 27 years in coaching, a lot in upstate New York. He played at Cortland, coached there, coached at Brockport, and he had his head coaching career here at Oswego since 2012. He's just been a phenomenal coach for the Lakers, big part of this program, not just with volleyball, but Laker athletics as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, Coach O'Connell, he's been in the SUNYAC postseason 6 of his 9 seasons that he has been here for the Oswego volleyball team, and he made the semifinals in both 2015 and 2018. So he's had a mark, not only on that court, but with all of us here at in the media orgs.
He absolutely has. A man who certainly will be missed in Laker Hall. We're going to take a quick break here on Laker Connections, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, it's the Wheelhouse Wire. We take a look at the opening weekend of SUNYAC hockey right after this.
limited space, you can't run down to the store to buy parts. You have to improvise with what you have on your mission. Making is when there is something new that was not in existence at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
It's an incredible sense of accomplishment when you have made something. That's why I make. Now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Good evening and welcome to WTOP 10 Nightly News.
Total, Baldwin faces 32 charges.
Saturday, I went to Woodchuck Saloon.
Too much temperature change.
Hurricane 10 meteorologist.
2 as well.
Visions for Tanner Smith.
Go to 2 and 1.
2 with 6 and 10 on the year.
Once there was a boy who did the same thing again and again. One day, he was told he had autism. He got help and slowly learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Wheelhouse Wire. Brian and myself are going to get you prepped and ready for Laker hockey this weekend. The Lakers begin SUNYAC play and will take on both Plattsburgh and Potsdam, who we're going to start away. So Brian, take it away.
Absolutely. We got the North Country trip this weekend to start off SUNYAC play, and it's going to start off with a bang on Friday night when the Lakers travel to Potsdam to take on the Bears. Oswego comes in at 0-2 following those two non-conference games last week. While this will be the first official game for Potsdam following two cancellations for them last weekend. Jake, big game Friday night to kick off SUNYAC play. What's it going to take to get the job done?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because this Potsdam team, they do bring back a couple returners. So we are going to see if this team is going to bring them back in strong force or if Oswego is going to go up to the North Country, run this trip like they have in years past, and continue to play as well as they have. It'll be interesting what we get in net, but it's still going to be strong with Travis Broman, Alex DiCarlo. The introduction of Connor Smart last week against Elmira was huge. He played very, very well against the Elmira Soaring Hawks. And, of course, against Hobart, we saw a couple guys. You know, Troy Robillard, he played pretty well against them and a defensive strongness. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it certainly will. And this is a matchup that Oswego's dominated historically. Take a look, 73-29-2 overall. Lakers on a 4-game win streak, 7-3 in their last 10. So, you know, in the last few years, and this group of Lakers in particular, they've taken care of business against the Potsdam Bears for the most part. And listen, Travis Broman, Josh LeBlanc, Tyler Antonucci, right? Kirkby, these guys know they're supposed to take care of business when they go into Potsdam. And they know they need a win because they were not happy when they got back from Elmira on Saturday night, 0-2 on the year. That's not how they wanted to start the season. They need to get 2 big points in the SUNYAC this weekend, and it starts on 4 big points in the SUNYAC. My apologies, because they also got Plattsburgh. They need 2 big points on Friday night. They need to start it off strong, and it all starts by taking advantage of your opportunity and getting more traffic in front of the net, making the goalie uncomfortable, and making that goalie work, because they really didn't do that much all weekend, and getting the power play going. They scored against Elmira. Got to take advantage of special teams opportunities this weekend.
Yeah, Michael MacArthur and Robert Clerk, both Lakers, they ended up moving and going to Potsdam, so we'll see them Friday night. Now, moving on to Saturday night, the Oswego State Lakers, they're going to skate into Ronald B. Stafford Ice Arena to take on the Cardinals of Plattsburgh. It's Rock the Red weekend, and that arena is definitely going to be packed for this rivalry game between the two teams. Last time against Plattsburgh in the North Country, the Lakers defeated them 4-2. Now they're on a 4-game win streak. The Lakers look to continue that roll Saturday night. How can they do that one, Brian?
Well, here it is. Welcome to the rivalry. This is it for the Lakers. This is the game they want to win. This and Geneseo, these are the two biggest rivalries, right? You go into the season, you sign up to be an Oswego State Laker. You're saying, all right, we got Plattsburgh. Where's Plattsburgh and where's Geneseo? And they got a tough weekend ahead of them, going to Potsdam and then rock the Red weekend. And it kind of feels like it's Plattsburgh answer for Whiteout weekend, right, where they got to play. But you take a look. This is a matchup that Oswego's done fairly well in recent years. Take a look at this. Last 2 seasons ago, Lakers swept it. Clean sweep. 3 wins for the Lakers, none for the Cardinals. Lakers outscored the Cardinals 11-3, and the Lakers power play actually got going a little bit against the Plattsburgh Cardinals. Lakers on a 4-game winning streak against these Cardinals. Guess what? They're 1 win away from tying their all-time win streak record against the Plattsburgh Cardinals of 5. So listen, this is a matchup where it's going to be tough, right? These Plattsburgh games are tough. They're physical. It's going to get loud in the Stafford Arena this weekend. It's not going to be a comfortable environment for this team, but they know what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, look out for a couple of their returning guys because they were there when Oswego knocked them out of the SUNYAC playoff. They were there in that semifinal game, so look out for a few of them. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be very low scoring. It'll be very interesting to see what happens this weekend against them. Potsdam, Plattsburgh.
4 big SUNYAC points on the line. Got to go get these wins, and this team knows it. They need wins, not just for SUNYAC play. They just need wins.
Yeah. That is going to do it for the Wheelhouse Wire. But do not go anywhere because when we come back, a special guest is going to join us at the table. But we aren't going to tell you who just yet. You got to come back to find out. It's Lakers Showdown time. You're watching WTOP 10.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
Our son Arjun was born with cystic fibrosis. CF is a genetic disease that shortens lives. When the foundation was founded in 1955, children with CF rarely live long enough to attend kindergarten. Today, thanks to the foundation's groundbreaking research, advocacy, and care, some people with CF are attending college, getting married, and starting families. We've made amazing progress, but until a cure is found for all people with CF, we will not stop. Help us add tomorrows. Visit cff.org today.
Is there a danger hiding in your home? Unused opioid medicines could harm your family. Find your unused opioid pills, patches, or syrups and learn how to dispose of them safely at fda.gov/drug disposal.
Welcome back to Laker Connections on WTOP 10. I am tonight's moderator, Brandon Ladd. Thanks to Aaron's absence tonight and Jake in the host chair, I can make my triumphant return to the Laker Connections
back,
desk.
bud.
Thanks, Brian. It's been a while. Thanks, Brian. Or thanks, Jake. You all know how it works. 3 questions about your favorite Laker sports and athletes. I assign the point to whoever gave the best answer. Best of 3. You boys ready?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. With SUNYAC play finally starting for the men's hockey team, it is time to get down to business. The Lakers have started the season 0-2. The last time they started 0-2 was in 1998 when they dropped 2 games back-to-back to Alabama Huntsville. Now we are 20 years later, but that brings me to this question. Jake, is this weekend a must-win for the Lakers in their NCAA tournament hopes?
Yeah, no, it most certainly is. You got to go there. You got to get the brooms out. There better be brooms a-sweeping across the North Country because if you don't win these 2 games, you have lost 4 key points in the SUNYAC. You're already trailing to Potsdam and Plattsburgh in the standings, and you only get to face them one more time. These are wins that need to be crucial. It has to happen this week to get both wins. You got to go up to Potsdam, beat them because you know how to beat them. This is a team that you have handled in the past. Plattsburgh, it's a rivalry. Extend that streak. Get to 5 games because they need it. Look at this. They're not even nationally ranked. They did get 6 votes,
No,
but
they're
they
not.
need to win this weekend. Get the broom out.
But listen, I'm going to go with no. These aren't must-wins for NCAA hopes. There's still chances to get big wins on this schedule. You look at the rest of the schedule for the Lakers. 2 against the number 2 team in the nation in the Geneseo Knights. They come to town on November 20th. Chances there. They get to play Utica in January. Chance there. Williams is getting votes. They play them twice. Brockport getting votes. They play them twice. Augsburg getting votes. They play them during the Pathfinder tournament. There are still chances for the Lakers to build. If they lose this weekend, yeah, it's not a good start for SUNYAC play, but there are still great chances for this Lakers team to get wins and get credit in the pairwise rankings. They still have a shot. It's not necessarily a must-win situation this weekend.
Yeah, but come on. The guys even think this is a must-win weekend.
All right.
The guys are saying that.
Okay, boys, going into this weekend, it's a rivalry weekend. This is very important. This point goes to Jake. It's always a must-win when you start SUNYAC play. Pivoting here, the Oswego State men's soccer team is currently on a historic playoff run that has featured upset wins over the number 3-seeded Oneonta Red Dragons, followed by a 1-0 victory over the number 2-seeded New Paltz. It has been a team effort to get to this point, but I got to ask you guys, who has the Laker playoff MVP been so far, Brian?
You know, I think it's going to go to a guy with a really good first name in Brian Terra. I must say, he's been phenomenal in goal, right? We went into last week saying Brian Terra's got to have the game of his life against Oneonta. We got to see the Brian Terra of old in 1920 when he was winning awards on a weekly basis, it felt like. And he has been. He made 6 big saves against Oneonta, a couple big ones in overtime that kept him in the game. And then you look at New Paltz, they won 1-0. He had a clean sheet. Guess what the biggest play in that game was? It wasn't the goal. It was the saved PK in the second half that kept that 1-0 victory alive.
Yeah, but if they didn't score the goal, it would have been 1-0 the other team.
All right, fine. We'll call them even because either way, it would have been 1-1. At the end of the day, Brian Terra's been great in that, and that's how this team is winning. If you're not scoring, you need great goalie play. That's what they have right now.
You know, my MVP, Dan Kane, the head coach of this Oswego State.
I don't think you can do that.
I can. I can.
I don't think coaches get
Hajun
MVP
Lee
awards.
and Kieran Gilroy have not started a game this playoff. They have been a part of every goal that has been scored during the SUNYAC playoff.
Why not pick one of them?
Why? Because Coach Kane puts them out there at the right time. You know who picked the PK lineup? Coach Kane, Munsky, Ryan Young, Hajun Lee, Kieran Gilroy, Brandon Murphy. He put that unit out there. They need. It's
okay,
go to
guys,
Coach Kane.
guys. Question: MVP, most valuable player. Point
Booyah!
goes to Brian.
Thank you.
Moving on, the Oswego State women's hockey program has seen a quick growth in the last few seasons, and the Lakers look like an up-and-coming powerhouse, not just on the new HL stage, but nationally. This week, Oswego was not ranked in the top 10, but did receive votes. Should the Lakers have been ranked, particularly since the team beat Adrian last weekend? Jake, they're ranked in the top 10. Should they have been ranked?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000% they need to be ranked. It's ridiculous how they are not. They went in and they beated Adrian, who did not lose a single game last season. Didn't lose a single game, okay? So they went in, they did that, they beat Trine, and you know what? I know exhibition doesn't count, but they beat King's College 18-0.
Exhibition doesn't
They
count.
are outscoring their opponents 29-2. Look at that. Adrian, they're ranked 10th right now. That's absolutely ridiculous. They go in, they lose to Oswego. How does that not, someone carry the 7 math? How are you not ahead of them? I don't get it. It's ridiculous.
Listen.
They need to be ranked.
But Brian, the pedigree.
The pedigree.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. The pedigree. At the end of the day, this is what these rankings tell me, is that going into the season, Oswego wasn't viewed as one of these top-tier programs. They're proving to be, but what those rankings tell me is that Adrian was considered a top-tier team, Oswego second-tier. It was an upset win against Adrian, I think. We can agree. Adrian hadn't lost since February of 2020. So that shows me that that whoever's making these rankings needs to see more consistency out of this Lakers team. They need to see him do it more consistently.
I don't know how.
That's why
you go
it
to
hasn't
Michigan
been.
and Indiana.
They've only played 2 games in the last 2 years. That's the biggest thing for me.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Adrian should not be ranked.
Jake, I'm sorry to do this to you, Brian.
No.
But screw the pedigree. This point goes to Jake Johnson.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
1-0 in my career. I've only been on this desk once in this career.
I am the all-time champion, though.
You are. 21 straight wins.
21. I have the record for career wins. All right, that's all the time we have for today's show. We'd like to thank our good friend Brandon Ladd for coming on and joining us this evening. Be sure to tune in to Hockey Night in Oswego on Saturday when the Lakers women's hockey team faces off with the Buffalo State Bengals. But in the meantime, for Jake Johnson, Brandon Ladd, our entire crew here at Laker Connections, I'm Brian Rudman. Thank you for watching. Have a great night, ladies and gentlemen. We see you at Hockey Night in Oswego.